All right, so the master has just finished. Well, we're doing the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna for those of you who might be checking in new, I don't know. And we are currently on the PDF, we're on page 472. And the name of the chapter, I guess I should have that. Let me see if I can find it. Wow, there it is. Chapter 28, at the Star Theater. And he just got finished singing a few songs, which the author, the writer, M, says that listening to that hymn, the master was thrilled with ecstasy. So again, he's going into that state of samadhi where he's knowing, has a full working knowledge of who he is, and has knows himself to not be merely that body and not merely that mind, but to be all bodies and all minds. And so I'll just read through the story just to kind of give the mood of the setting that we're in, because there's going to be quite a few more songs today. And the songs in the gospel are never accidental. There's always a teaching in them, and they always are within the context of a teaching or of something that he's trying to get across. And so the song that he just finished listening to, it starts out, Glory to Gora, the source of bliss. Hail Gauranga, Redeemer of earth. Help of the helpless, life of the living, slayer of fear in the hearts of the fearful. Age after age we see your play, new sports unfolding, moods ever new, waves rolling. Let me turn the silence on here. Waves ever rolling, new tales to be told. Thou who bearest the whole world's burden, shower on us the nectar of love. Take away our grief and afflictions. Thou in love's pleasure cave dost dwell, hope of the suffering, chastiser of sin, scourge of the wicked, victory to you. I read this here, and it's always fascinating to me well, more so as you just dive into spiritual life. Uh, the songs of praise, the songs that list out the qualities of God, no matter what religion you're singing in, the songs always list out the same type of things. You're always going to hear the source of bliss or joy or love or wonder, the Redeemer of earth, because that the incarnation is always the Redeemer, or the teacher, the guru is always the Redeemer of the world. The help of the helpless. I grew up singing songs with all of these exact same descriptions of God, the life of the living, the slayer of fear, right? New and everything new, this newness of the self, the newness of the soul, the newness of your forgiveness, the newness of the moment, just this real emphasis to teach you and get you to an understanding that this moment is always fresh and full of an infinite potential for you. Right? That what happens is our mind gets calcified by our memories, by our history, by our stories of egoism, that we describe the moment in a way that limits and confines us to such a small space. We give ourselves so few options. So it's always so important in spiritual life that God reminds us, no, this moment you are undefined. Actually, at this moment you are undefinable. You cannot fit into a box. And that all of the limitations that you feel like you suffer according to are of your own device. You're the one that has told the story that holds you fast in the place that you're at. But to always remember that that is a story, and you can change that story. You have the option to see the moment in a different way from any way that you ever have. And, it's a wonderful practice because it's a great way for controlling the mind. I've shared about the new experience I'm doing in waking up, where I redefine my day before it starts. My first experience in the morning when I wake up and I'm laying there looking at it and dying to stay in bed and not get up, to sit there and just change that story. It's like, no, why don't I want to get up? Of course I want to get up. It's a new day. It's a new life. I've got my practice. I've got my center, my friends, everybody around, and I live in such a beautiful place. How can I be limited like that? And I, meditate on that for a few moments and then just simply decide on an optimistic, positive outlook for the day. And the more that you do that, the more the mind begins to obey it. And the first time that the mind actually just accepted it was was really quite a surprise to me. That a mood, I had woken up in somewhat of a downer of a mood, and that just simply by that small exercise, we threw it away. We didn't even deal with it. We didn't even try and talk our way out of it. We just decided, no, this mind can have any thought in it. So why not put a beautiful thought in it, right? And let that be true. To not let the ego determine what's true, but let the heart determine what's true for us. And so all these wonderful things shower on us that nectar of love, because all of us know and hope anyway, for that experience of that nectar of love just filling our hearts like it is for Ramakrishna here, going into that ecstasy to take away our grief, take away our affliction, our struggles. You who live in love's pleasure cave, hope of the suffering. God is our hope. He's our chance, you know, our chance to find that freedom, our chance to transcend, our chance to expand, you know, in that sense. Gosh, he's I have a friend from Houston visiting, so he just borrowed the electric bike and going off, and I'm just got all my digits are crossed. Like, come on, you don't fall over, don't get hurt. And so all this placing our mind again at the feet of the beloved and to remember just exactly the expanse of what we have because of the presence of God and the grace and the joy of knowing that as we grow in our awareness of its truth, as we begin to observe it as true rather than the mind trying to imagine something, that when religion begins to be real, where we begin to have that notion, the sense of the presence that we can palpably feel, and the love begins to palpably grow inside, and we start to realize more just by surprise that we're changing, that we're growing, that we're not the same as we used to be, that this delightful possibility is ours because of the nature of God, because God is wisdom, because God is intelligence. So the master, listening to the hymn, was thrilled with ecstasy. The next scene is at Navadvip on the bank of the Ganges. After bathing in the holy water, the Brahmin men and women engage in worship by the riverside. This immediately in my mind, I'm remembering in 99 on my trip to India, I started in Calcutta and then just followed the Ganges, the Ganga, all the way up to Gamuk, where it comes out of the glacier. And I remember when I got up to that glacier, there were chunks of ice floating in the stream up there. And there were all these devotees standing in the stream with beads, wrapped around their hands, telling their beads or chanting different chants and whatnot. And I just remember this one young man was standing there in just a loincloth, holding his beads and telling his beads, and he was wet. And every now and then he was dipping down into the river as the ice was floating by. And he was just standing there, just, his body was just visibly shaking in contortions as he was doing his practices, and I was sitting up on this big rock in the sun, just being a tourist, enjoying enjoying the day, and watching his austerity, and actually being rather inspired by it. And I remember him coming over and shooing me off of the rock because I thought at first that maybe it was a holy rock or something, or I'd sat there incorrectly. But no, he just wanted to sit there, and he he came over and just shooed me off, and sat there on the rock. And I laughed at it at the time because I understood the rock was warm because it was in the sun, and here this guy had been standing in the ice water, and he did deserve it more than me. I was just being, this gluttonous traveler on on my vacation, not not there for any real spiritual reasons at that point in my life anyway. And it makes me happy that that I actually got out of the way, that he didn't provoke me to be myself at the time. But to watch all of those devotees standing out there in that freezing cold water, which in one sense for a Westerner is not that big of a deal because we know the cold, but for these guys, you could tell this was quite the austerity for them doing that practice and being so true to it. It made a big impression on me. And so here we are again by the riverside with the Brahmin men and women engaging in worship by the riverside, by the side of the river. As they close their eyes, Nimai steals their food offerings and begins to eat them. A Brahmin loses his temper and says, "You scapegrace! You rascal! You're taking away my offering for Vishnu. Ruin will seize you." Nimai holds on to the offering and is about to run away. Many of the women love him dearly and cannot bear to have him go away. They call to him, "Return, O Nimai! Come back, O Nimai!" Nimai turns a deaf ear to them. One of the women, however, knows the irresistible charm that will bring him back. She loudly chants the name of Hari. Immediately he repeats the name of Hari and comes back. That says it all right there. you know, that the only way to get him to return is to start chanting the name. So that points at what his experience of that name is. That for any other reason he wouldn't return, but for a chanting of the name he would return. So that inside that touches a very deep place for him. M was seated beside the master, and Sri Ramakrishna could not control himself. He cried out, "Ah!" and shed tears of love. He said to Babaram and M, "Don't make a fuss if I fall into an ecstatic mood or go into samadhi. Then the worldly people will take me for a cheat." Another scene. Nimai is invested with the sacred thread of the Brahmins. He puts on the traditional ochre robe of the sannyasi. Mother Sachi and the women of the neighborhood stand about while he begs for alms, singing, "Drop a morsel of food, I pray, into my begging bowl. Alone I roam, a new-made yogi, on the highways of the world. People of Braja, you I love, and so time and again I come to you at hunger's call. I beg my food from door to door." Uh-oh. "From door to door. The sun is low, and I must seek my home on the Jamuna's bank. Into its waters fall my tears, as onward murmuring it flows. The onlookers leave the stage, and Nimai stands alone. The gods in the guise of Brahmin men and women sing his praises. The men, your body gleams like liquid moonlight. That you have put on a man's dwarfish form, O Lord, you we salute. The women, bewitcher of the gopis' hearts, you roam in the shady groves about Vrindavan's vale. Nimai, hail Sri Radha, glory to Radha. The youths of Braja are your friends. You curb haughty maidens' pride. The women, your love has made the gopis mad. In ecstasy the Jamuna thrills. Men, Narayana, deluder of demons, refuge of the fear-stricken gods. The women, O lover of Braja, you beg the love of Braja's comely maidens. And Nimai, hail Sri Radha, glory to Radha. Listening to the music, the master went into samadhi. Can you just imagine? I mean, Radha, Krishna, and Krishna, Ramakrishna having been Krishna, right? Having that set of samskaras, and then to hear this song bringing back all of the imagery of that Leela that he experienced, that play if he experienced. He goes into samadhi, and the curtain falls and the orchestra plays on. A new scene, Srivas and other devotees are engaged in conversation in front of Advaita's house. Mukunda sings, "Sleep no more. How long will you lie in Maya's slumber locked, O mind? Who are you? Why have you been born? Forgotten is your own true self. O mind, unclose your eyes at last and wake yourself from evil dreams. A fool you are to bind yourself so to the passing shows of life. when in you lives eternal bliss. Come out of the gloom, O foolish mind. Come out and hail that rising sun. There's a beautiful thing to chant in the mornings to start the day, right there. Sleep no more. How long will you lie in Maya's slumber locked, O mind? Who are you? Why have you been born? Forgotten is your own true self. O mind, unclose your eyes at last and wake yourself from evil dreams. A fool you are to bind yourself so to the passing shows of life, when in you lives eternal bliss. Come out of the gloom, O foolish mind. Come out and hail the rising sun. Beautiful. Sri Ramakrishna praised the voice of the singer highly. Another scene. Nimai is staying at home. Shrivas comes to visit him. First, he meets Sachi. The mother weeps and says, "My son doesn't attend to his household duties. My eldest son, Vishwarupa, has renounced the world, and my heart has ached ever since. Now I fear that Nimai will follow in his steps." Nimai arrives, and Sachi says to Shrivas, "Look at him. Tears run down his cheeks and breast. Tell me, how can I free him from these notions?" At the sight of Shrivas, Nimai clings to his feet and says, with his eyes full of tears, "Ah me, revered sir, I have not yet attained devotion to Krishna. Futile is this wretched life. Tell me, sir, where is Krishna? Where shall I find Krishna? Give me the dust of your feet with your blessing, that I may realize the blue one with the garland of wild flowers hanging about his neck." Sri Ramakrishna looked at M. He was eager to say something, but he could not. His voice was choked with emotion. The tears ran down his cheeks. With unmoving eyes, he watched Nimai clinging to Srivas's feet and saying, "Sir, I have not yet attained devotion to Krishna." Nimai has opened a school, but he cannot teach the students any longer. Gangadas, his former teacher, comes to persuade him to direct his attention to his worldly duties. He says to Srivas, "Listen, Srivas, we are Brahmins too, and devoted to the worship of Vishnu, but you people are ruining Nimai's worldly prospects." Master to M, that is the advice of the worldly wise. Do this as well as that. When the worldly man teaches spirituality, he always advises a compromise between the world and God. You see, I went through this, when I was in high school and I decided I was going to go to Abilene Christian University to get a Bible degree, to become a minister. Every single one of my relatives said that to me. "No, that's great. Of course you should do that. That's a very beautiful, beautiful calling. We're thrilled for it. But get a second major. Do computer science or you know something that will pay your bills, something that you can fall back on, right?" And that's the worldly wise, those who have forgotten that it is God that takes care of us. It's God that pays our salary, and God that feeds us and gives us our home and gives us our all of the things that we enjoy, you know. And so I did. I got my computer science degree also in that, but I got to throw it away at last. So yes, there it is. That is the advice of the worldly wise. Do this as well as that. When the worldly man teaches spirituality, he always advises a compromise between the world and God. And this is our trouble. This is why we don't feel the great joy in our spiritual lives that Thakur and Ma and Swamiji all experienced, because we have these little places that we've reserved for ourselves. A little place where we are still in charge, where we still rule our little kingdom, so that we can still decide to what degree we're going to be devoted, to what degree we're going to be surrendered, right? But to have this to attain this level of joy that the master has, where he weeps, at these songs that are happening and just feels so deeply, it's because there's nothing in the way of feeling deeply. There is no compromise on his part that dams up the experience of God, that dulls the sense of his soul, you know. He knows himself not to be body mind, and that sets the soul free when it hears its name, when it remembers its nature. So M says, yes, that is true. That's worldly wise advice. He goes on. Gangadas continues his argument with Nimai. He says, Nimai, undoubtedly you are versed in the scriptures. Reason with me. Explain to me if any other duty is superior to worldly duties. You are a householder. Why disregard the duties of a householder and follow others' duties? Master to M. Did you notice? He's trying to persuade Nimai to make a compromise. M. Yes, sir. Nimai says to Gangadas, I am not willfully indifferent to a householder's duties. On the contrary, it is my desire to hold to all sides. But, revered sir, I don't know what it is that draws me on. I don't know what to do. I want to cling to the shore, but I cannot. My soul wanders away. I am helpless. My soul constantly wants to plunge headlong into the boundless ocean. The master, ah, me. Oh, yes, because he's completely absorbed in it. Why? Because that's his own experience. He talks about that. I'm trying. I cannot. I cannot. Mother will not allow it. The scene changes, and Nityananda has arrived at Navadvip. After a search, he meets Nimai, who in turn has been seeking him. When they meet, Nimai says to him, Blessed is my life. Fulfilled is my dream. You visited me in a dream and then disappeared. The master said in a voice choked with emotion. Nimai said that he had seen him in a dream. Nimai is in an ecstatic mood and becomes engaged in conversation with Advaita, Shrivas, Haridas, and the other devotees. Nityai sings a song suited to Nimai's mood. Where is Krishna? Where is my Krishna? He is not in the grove, dear friends. Give me Krishna. Bring me my Krishna. Radha's heart knows naught but him. At this song, Shree Ramakrishna went into samadhi. He remained in that state for a long time. The orchestra played on, and gradually his mind came down to the relative plane. In the meantime, a young man of Kardaha, born in the holy family of Nityananda, had entered the box. He was standing behind the master's chair. Sri Ramakrishna was filled with delight at the sight of him. He held his hand and talked to him affectionately. Every now and then he said, Please sit down here. Your very presence awakens my spiritual feeling. He played tenderly with the young man's hands and lovingly stroked his face. I have to say that everything in me wishes I was that young man. Can you imagine? You see, this kind of joy, this kind of connection, this kind of intimacy with the divine beloved can only happen when you've pulled the stops out, when there's no reservation in you, when there's no compromise within you. That's the only way we have access to that, to where we would stand in front of Ramakrishna and he would be able to walk directly into us because there would be no door blocking him. There would be nothing in the way to keep him at a distance. Because it's our own when we experience that from a Swami, when you get sometimes you sometimes when you meet a senior Swami, you want to be intimate, to have him give you that boost, that feeling of acceptance, that wonder, and but your own desire for that is egotistical, and that desire actually begins to block it, and when the Swami, I know when the senior Swami feels that egoism, it shuts it down. It just closes it up and they're like, oh, that's where you are. Okay, be there. you know, and it's like, but see this, we read this and just think, just know that this will be you. This will be you. It's only a matter of time before all of us have this experience of just being in the presence of Thakur, of our ideal, and feeling that embrace of an acceptance that has no reservation. Feel that love that goes all the way down, to give us those words, it's okay, and to know it's okay. Oh, it's always okay. It's fine. All the way down, always. Go forward. After he had left, Sri Ramakrishna said to M, he's a great scholar. His father is a great devotee of God. When I go to Kardaha to visit Syama Sundar, the father entertains me with sacred offerings, such as one cannot buy even for 100 rupees. This young man has good traits. A little shaking will awaken his inner spirit. At the sight of him, my spiritual mood is aroused. I should have been overwhelmed with ecstasy if he had stayed here any longer. The curtain rises, and Nityananda is walking in a procession on the public road with his companions, chanting the name of Hari. He meets two ruffians, Jagai and Madhai, who are sworn enemies of all religious people. Madhai strikes Nitai with a piece of broken pottery. Nitai is hurt and bleeds profusely, but he pays no heed, inebriated as he is with the love of God. Sri Ramakrishna was in an ecstatic mood. Nitai embraces both Jagai and Madhai and sings a song to the two ruffians. Jagai, Madhai, oh come and dance, chanting Hari's name with fervor. What does it matter that you struck me? Dance, my dear friends, in Hari's name. Sing the name of our beloved. He will embrace you in love's rapture. Let the heavens resound with his name. You have not tasted true emotion. Weep as you chant the name of Hari, and you will see the moon of your soul. Hari's name would I lovingly give you. Nitai calls you to share his love. Oof. You will see the moon of your soul. Do you think that's probably a reference to that description of the moon reflecting in the lake? That it's the name of God that calms the mind and allows you to see the moon of your soul, to see God in yourself, to recognize the divine presence. It's no longer shards of white light because of a disturbed mind. Now it's a whole and completed moon because it's been calmed. You have pulled away. You've gotten out of the water. Nimai speaks to Sachi of his desire to enter the monastic life. His mother faints and falls to the ground. At this point, many in the audience burst into tears. Sri Ramakrishna remained still and looked intently at the stage. A single tear appears in the corner of each eye. The performance was over. Sri Ramakrishna was about to enter a carriage, and a devotee asked him how he had enjoyed the play. The master said with a smile, I found the representation the same as the real. I can't help but think for him it was the real. you know, he was so clearly able to see. The carriage proceeded toward Mahendra's mill. Suddenly, Sri Ramakrishna went to an ecstatic mood and murmured to himself in loving tones, O Krishna, O Krishna. Krishna is knowledge, Krishna is soul, Krishna is mind, Krishna is life, Krishna is body. He continued, O Govinda, you are my life, you are my soul. The carriage reached the mill. Mahendra fed the master tenderly with various dishes. M sat by his side. Affectionately, he said to M, Here, eat a little. He put some sweets into his hands. With Mahendra and a few other devotees, Sri Ramakrishna left in the carriage for the Dakshineshwar temple garden. The master was in a happy mood. He sang a song about Gauranga and Nitai. M sang with him. Oh, what a fun scene that would be. M and the master singing this little song as they're riding along in the carriage. Can you just see the master swinging his feet on the chair and just kind of rocking back and forth like a child, like a young boy, you know, in and out of ecstasy, just a big that intoxicating smile that everybody always talks about what that he had on his face as he's sitting there and singing, Gaur and Nitai, you blessed brothers, I have heard how kind you are, and therefore I have come to you. The master and Mahendra talked about the latter's intended pilgrimage. The master, smiling, the divine love in you is barely a sprout now. Why should you let it wither? But come back very soon. Many a time I have thought of visiting your place. At last I have done it. I am so happy. Mahendra, my life is indeed blessed, sir. Master, you were already blessed. Your father is also a good man. I saw him the other day. He has faith in the Adhyatma Ramayana. Mahendra, please bless me that I may have love for God. Master, you are generous and artless. One cannot realize God without sincerity and simplicity. God is far, far away from the crooked heart. Near Shyam Bazar, Mahendra bade the master goodbye, and the carriage continued on its way. Oof, a lot of sweetness there. Chapter 29, the Durga Puja Festival. It's Friday, September 26th, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna had come to Calcutta. It was the first day of the Durga Puja, the great religious festival, and the Hindus of the metropolis were celebrating it. The master intended to visit the image of the Divine Mother at Hadar's house. He also wanted to see Shivanath, the Brahmo devotee. It was about midday. Umbrella in hand, M was pacing the footpath in front of the Brahmo Samaj temple. 2 hours had passed, but the master had not yet appeared. Now and then, M sat down on the steps of Dr. Mahal Navish's dispensary and watched the joy and mirth of the people, young and old, who were celebrating the puja. A little after 3, the master's carriage drove up. As soon as Sri Ramakrishna stepped out, he saluted the temple of the Brahmo Samaj with folded hands. Hazra and a few other devotees were with him. M bowed before the master and took the dust of his feet. The master told him that he was going to Shivanath's house. A few minutes later, several members of the Brahmo Samaj came and took him to Shivanath's, but Shivanath was not at home. Shortly afterward, Vijay Goswami, Mahal Navish, and several other Brahmo leaders greeted the master and took him inside the Brahmo temple. You know, I love this fact that the Ramakrishna just would salute the temple. You know, he wasn't a Brahmo devotee. He talked about some of some of the places where he didn't really care for their or what they were saying. You know, they were very one-sided about God only being formless and whatnot. And yet his first response, the genuine response, you know, is to salute the temple. You know, I know I've known I know Muslims who salute mosques whenever they pass, and I know Catholics that will salute the cathedral anytime they pass. But I haven't yet met the person who salutes both, you know. And what a beautiful opportunity for us to be that person who can see God, especially where he should be seen easily, in a place of worship, that we would be able to see that and salute that and feel the heart move, feel the heart shift at the thought of it. Sri Ramakrishna was in a happy mood. He was given a seat below the altar. There, the Brahmo devotees sang their devotional music. Vijay and the Brahmo devotees sat in front of the master to Vijay with a smile. I was told that you had to put up a signboard here that people belonging to other faiths are not allowed to come in. Narendra too said to me, you shouldn't go to the Brahmo Samaj. You had better visit Shivanath's house. But I say that we are all calling on the same God. Jealousy and malice need not be. Some say that God is formless, some say that God has form. I say, let one man meditate on God with form if he believes in form, and let another man meditate on the formless deity if he does not believe in form. What I mean is that dogmatism is not good. It is not good to feel that my religion alone is true and other religions are false. The correct attitude is this: my religion is right, but I do not know whether other religions are right or wrong, true or false. I say this because one cannot know the true nature of God unless one realizes him. Kabir used to say, God with form is my mother, the formless is my father. Which shall I blame? Which shall I praise? The two pans of the scale are equally heavy. So this wonderful notion of making room for everyone, to have your own religion, that you're devoted to, this is my path, this is what I do, but I'll salute yours and I'll salute your efforts and I'll sincerely hope that you're successful in your quest. And I like this here where he says at the end, you know, uh, that I don't know whether other religions are right or wrong, true or false. I say this because one cannot know the true nature of God unless one realizes him. This whole notion, this has been was a quandary of mine actually for quite some time. When I first, left the Christian church back in 1990, and I was thinking, at that time, it's like I wanted spiritual life, I wanted a connection, but I didn't know how to get it or where to go for it. And I started to wonder, like, how does one find the truth? I was like, it took me 25 years to research Christianity and for myself to find that it wasn't a fit for me, and then it took another 10 years before I found the Vedanta. And it just seems to me logically, this is the only way that it can be true, that all religions are going toward the same God. Because otherwise, to expect us to study religions that you have to spend a lifetime on each one of them, a minimum of a lifetime. I mean, even that is not even near enough to touch and to understand the depths and the intricacies of any of the religions. And so to say that only one is true puts us in an impossible situation of having to have to go through many, many, many lives of searching, before we find that one, if there was that one, right? But here I think Thakur, this seems so right to my heart, to my soul, that it's not the religion that's going to be right or wrong. It's you in how you practice it that's going to be right or wrong. Practice any religion with sincerity and earnestness, and Thakur says you will reach the goal, right? Be a lover of truth, a lover of sincerity and earnestness. Hindus, Musliman, Christians, Shaktas, Shaivas, Vaishnavas, the Brahmagyanis of the time of the rishis, and you, the Brahmogyanis of modern times, all seek the same object. A mother prepares dishes to suit the stomachs of her children. Suppose a mother has 5 children and a fish is bought for the family. She doesn't cook palau or kalia for all of them. All have not the same power of digestion. So she prepares a simple stew for some, but she loves all of her children equally. Do you know my attitude? I love all the preparations of fish, right? I love all the religions, all the spiritual traditions, all the efforts to reach truth, to reach God. I have a womanly nature. Everyone laughs. I feel myself at home with every dish fried fish, fish cooked with turmeric powder, pickled fish. Further, I equally relish rich preparations like the fish head, the kalia, and the pilau. Everyone laughs. Do you know what the truth is? God has made different religions to suit different aspirants at different times in different countries. All doctrines are only so many paths, but a path is by no means God himself. Indeed, one can reach God if one follows any of the paths with wholehearted devotion. Suppose there are errors in the religion that one has accepted. If one is sincere, and if one is earnest, then God himself will correct those errors. Suppose a man has set out with a sincere desire to visit Jagannath at Puri, and by mistake has gone north instead of south. Then certainly someone meeting him on the way is going to tell him, "My good fellow, don't go that way. Go to the south." And the man will reach Jagannath sooner or later. If there are errors in other religions, that is none of our business. Oof. I wasn't expecting that. That's none of our business. All right. God, to whom the world belongs, takes care of that. Our duty is somehow to visit Jagannath. To the Brahmos, the view you hold is good indeed. You describe God as formless. That is fine. One may eat a cake with icing either straight or sideways. It will taste sweet either way. But dogmatism is not good. You have no doubt heard the story of the chameleon. A man entered a wood and saw a chameleon on a tree. He reported to his friends, "I've seen a red lizard." He was firmly convinced that it was nothing but red. Another person, after having visited the tree, said, "I've seen the green lizard." He was firmly convinced that it was nothing but green. But the man who lived under the tree said, "What both of you have said is true. But the fact is, that creature is sometimes red, sometimes green, sometimes yellow, and sometimes has no color at all. God has been described in the Vedas as both with attributes and without. You describe him as without form only. That is one-sided. But never mind. If you know one of his aspects truly, you will be able to know his other aspects too. God himself will tell you all about them." Pointing to 2 or 3 Brahmo devotees, "Those who come to your samaj know both this gentleman and that." Right? So just this openness of heart, this openness of mind, this ability to respect everyone in their efforts and to see what's important, right? That which is important is your devotion, your purity of heart, your earnestness, your sincerity, your commitment to truth. Vijay still belonged to the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. He was a salaried preacher of that organization, but could not obey all its rules and regulations. He mixed with those who believed in God with form. This was creating a misunderstanding between him and the Brahmo authorities. Many Brahmos disapproved of his conduct. The master suddenly looked at Vijay and began to talk to him. Master, to Vijay, smiling, "I understand that they have been finding fault with you for mixing with those who believe in God with form. Is that true? He who is a devotee of God must have an understanding that cannot be shaken under any conditions. He must be like the anvil in a blacksmith's shop. It is constantly being struck by the hammer, and still it is unshaken. Bad people may abuse you very much and speak ill of you, but you must bear with them all if you sincerely seek God. Isn't it possible to think of God in the midst of the wicked? Just think of the rishis of ancient times. They used to meditate on God in the forest, surrounded on all sides by tigers, bears, and other ferocious beasts. Wicked men have the nature of tigers and bears. They will pursue you to do you injury." This is wonderful. He's really calling this young man, Vijay, to be the man of steady wisdom, right? To be that man of steady wisdom, to yes, people are going to say things. People are going to gossip about you. Even some of your own very own brothers and sisters at the temple are going to get caught chatting about you at times. What do you do? Well, if you're a man or a woman of ego, you get incensed, you get offended, and your ego demands payment. So you come up with some way of producing some sort of retribution, some sort of payment that they have to go through. You may tell them or not. You don't talk to them when you see them, or you don't greet them nicely when you see them, or you whisper something else to somebody else behind their back, like that, right? But that always is so constricting, so limiting, so it breaks down our character, and it feels ick inside, right? Instead, what do? We dwell in the shrine of the heart, right? The body is the temple of that shrine. You are the spirit being worshipped in this body, right? And in that worship, you produce an atmosphere for your very own temple, an atmosphere that becomes the place that you live from. It's an atmosphere of divine love, which comes packed with an unconditioned reality. And that bleeds into you, so that when people put up a condition that may cause you not to love them, you're able to look over it. You're able to transcend because you carry with you your own definition of the world, from the shrine of the heart, from the temple. You're never pulled out. You're never placed in the town square. You're always at prayer in the shrine, full of love, full of light, determined to go forward with strength and, above all, forbearance, being kind to yourself, being kind to others, and moving along your path, encouraging everybody who comes close enough for you to encourage them. One must be careful about these few things. First, an influential man who has much money and many men under his control. He can injure you if he wants. You must be careful while talking to him. Perhaps you may have to approve what he says. Second, a dog. When it chases you or barks at you, you must stand still, talk to it gently, and pacify it. Third, a bull. If it runs after you with lowered horns, you must calm it with a gentle voice. Fourth, a drunkard. If you arouse his anger, he will abuse you, naming 14 generations of your family. You should say to him, "Hello, uncle, how are you?" Then he will be mightily pleased and sit by you and smoke. Or like the other day in line at, I don't remember where I was. Oh, it was at 7-Eleven just yesterday. And there was this homeless guy in there looking for someone to give him just a plastic cup. And he walked by and he was a little rough looking. I was a little nervous, but smiled and said hi to him. And he just warmed up, smiled, and then just started talking all kinds of nonsense to me, and actually stood in line for about 10 minutes with me before I got to the register, just chatting, just saying stuff. It didn't make much of it. Most of it didn't make sense. But he was just going on, and it was spiritual from his perspective. He was talking about God in him, and how they were doing, and how he just had a new life given to him. He was still slightly intoxicated, but at least he wasn't in jail anymore, he said. And so this notion of not judging people up front, resisting that urge to judge or to condemn or to draw a line or to be afraid or to withdraw and shut down in any way, because unconditioned love demands openness. It demands that love flows constantly. There is nothing to limit it. There is nothing to protect in yourself because of it. You love, and you love in the faith and the presence of God. And if you need safety, you depend on the divine for that, you know, and you listen when it comes, if help comes, right? In the presence of a wicked person, I become alert. If such a man asks me whether I have a pipe for smoking, I say, yes, I have. Some people have the nature of a snake. They will bite you without warning. You have to discriminate a great deal in order to avoid the bite. Otherwise, your passion will be stirred up to such an extent that you will feel like doing an injury in return. Now, this is a hidden truth right here. You have to discriminate a great deal in order to avoid the bite. Otherwise, your passion will be stirred up to such an extent that you will feel like doing injury in return, right? If you hook, if you attach, right, and you feel the offense, you feel the bite, right? He says you have to transcend that feeling the bite by not having an ego, which is what tells you that you've been bitten, right? So the bite happens, but it's not your body, it's not your mind. So what does it matter? Your love is unaffected by that. Your mood, your nature, your disposition, unaffected. Why? Because you're sitting in your shrine, and the atmosphere of your company, your intimate presence with your own beloved, divine beloved, is manufacturing love in huge quantities in your bliss. And that's what comes out. This is the way. So you have to come up with a way, which is discernment, right? Discrimination, in order to avoid the bite, right? To not take the bite personally, to not identify with the bite and then react and perhaps do harm, right? Your passion will be stirred up to an extent that you will feel like doing injury in return. The companionship of a holy man is greatly needed now and then. It enables one to discriminate between the real and the unreal. Vijay. Oh my. I have no time, sir. I'm entangled in my duties here. Master. You are a religious teacher. Others have holidays, but not so a religious teacher. When the manager of an estate brings order to one part of it, the landlord sends him to another part. So you have no leisure. Everyone laughs. Vijay, with folded hands, Sir, please give me your blessing. Master, now you're talking like an ignorant person. It is God alone who blesses, right? Now it's interesting that he says that to him because sometimes Thakur will, sometimes he'll remind them that they're already blessed, or sometimes he'll even bless them. But here he's telling Vijay, you're not at that level, Vijay. You carry the beloved in you. You know that it's God alone that blesses you, right? It's not me, right? So go to yourself. Go to your own shrine to get blessed. Go to your own shrine to be forgiven. Go to your own shrine to find happiness, to find contentment. Go to your own shrine. You're not a beggar. Nobody has anything that you need. You have it all right there. Use that. Find yourself adequate in that divine nature and drink deeply of it and be free. All right, it's 5:30 already. We'll stop here for today.